We're live.
And we're live. Hey, how's everybody doing out there tonight? Getting thumbs up and waves and all this. So,
Good
uh,
here.
yeah. You know what? So welcome to another night of Whiskey and Lipstick. Of course, we're a bunch of ladies who like to sit around and drink whiskey and talk about whiskey and talk about all things in whiskey. But, you don't have to be a chick to join in. We don't even require lipstick, it's just part of the name.
But if you do it, we're gonna need pictures,
Yes,
especially if you're a guy.
definitely. We definitely tag us in that. So
You guys know who you are.
yes. So I am Theresa. I am the Canadian Whiskey Smith over on Instagram and Facebook, and I've got my Sarra here from Whiskey Crusaders, who's always. I don't know. I want to gesture this way, and it shows
I'm
wrong.
over here.
You're on that side. And then we've got two guests tonight. We've got Leanne from Scotch on the Bayou and Irene from Whiskey Mentors. So tonight we are talking about independent bottling and cask picks. So two of my favorite things because I'm a unicorn hunter.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, you just started your YouTube side of it not long ago. You were all on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then you've started going over to YouTube.
Yes.
So,
and April started it in April. So 3 whole months.
Yeah. So everybody watching, be sure to go check out Leanne on YouTube and Instagram as well.
Awesome.
Give her a sub on YouTube. She's got some pretty cool videos out there.
Scotch on the Bayou.
I enjoy watching Leanne.
Thanks.
And Irene, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I like whiskey, and actually, so let's start over. So I'm actually co-owner of a liquor store, and then sole owner of another liquor store. And my business partner is more of the wine guy, so he said, "Go take care of the brown spirits," and that's how this whole thing started in 2014. So in many ways, I consider myself kind of a newbie still to whiskeys because a lot of my customers have been drinking whiskey probably before I was born, maybe. But for me, it's only been really the last 7 years. But I'm like a sponge. So in 7 years, we've done a lot of barrel picks. I would say probably 70 something barrels in the last 7 years.
Wow.
So yeah, and
you are also a whiskey somm. Level 3, right?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. So you got 3 somms here. I'm just a lowly level 1 for another month, but we've got 3 somms here. So
awesome.
So talk to us about some barrel picks. That's one of the big things we're talking about tonight. Talk to us about how those go. What kind of barrel picks do you do? Do you have specifics that you're looking for?
And if you haven't started drinking already, get something
funny.
in your glass.
Yeah, time to drink.
Yeah.
Yes, gotta start. Yeah, so this whole barrel pick thing, came about. I think it was 2014 kind of time frame. But more importantly, since my new store, Canterbury Liquors, opened in October 2019, I went on a rampage and purchased to date 42 barrels. So of those 70 barrels plus. Most of them happened in the last, 18, 19 months. For a couple of reasons. One, because there were so many good whiskey barrels to pick. And 2, because people kept buying them up. So I had to keep replenishing them. So it's a good problem to have. But as far as how I go about picking barrels. So previously it was that they would kind of say, hey, we have these picks. If you're interested, taste a sample, whatever. But now that everybody is doing it, everybody and their brother wants to have a barrel that barrel whiskey they can call their barrel pick, which there is that. And then I always say there's barrel picks and there's barrel picks, right? So most times people don't go to the distilleries to pick. During COVID, I couldn't, but just before COVID and then after for sure. I prefer to go out to the site to pick because you have a lot more choices. And to me, it makes it more real. What kinds do I pick? all different kinds. Sometimes I pick barrels I don't necessarily pick them because they're barrels that people, kind of clamor for, like, like Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare, whatever it is. Because if it's not good, I'm going to say, yeah, no, not interested. And actually, I've got a reputation in Connecticut of being the only person that ever dared to turn down Sazerac. They brought me barrel samples that were awful, and I said, absolutely not, get this hell out of my life. And so they go, well, you're gonna have to wait 3 more years for this. I don't really care. So, but then there are sometimes I'll let you seek out a certain distillery, but more often than not, primarily after the Whiskey Tribe video hit of the top 8 things liquor stores want to do about it. Everybody and their brother during COVID got to watch the video, and they customers alike and distillery owners are all reaching out to me because they're trying to launch their brand, and they're like, what better person to launch it with? So they're like sending me all kinds of samples. I'm like, guys, yeah, if they're good, it's awesome, But if they're
and that was a great video.
It's like, look,
yeah,
that was a great video when they came
so
to your shop.
Yeah, that was such a cool thing that they did. I was like, hey, you guys want to come maybe do a tasting here? They go, we'll do one better. We'll do a video. I'm like, okay. I had no idea it was gonna take off the way it did. So that was pretty fun.
That was
but
awesome.
Everybody comes in the store and they all know who I am because they've seen the video, and I'm like, you've seen the video, because they're looking at me like, oh, hi, and I'm like, who are you? But anyway. But now
so I know that is.
I go, yeah, you've seen the video. It
sounds like you've got the job that like that is, if I could find a way to retire, I'm probably too young for that still. But if I could find a way to retire and pick barrels that everybody wants to clamor and buy and drink, I think that sounds like a pretty cool gig to be getting into.
Seriously, I want your life. So while we're on pause here, speaking of barrel picks,
but it's hard work. Yep.
Yes.
Speaking of barrel picks, and while we're at a little break here, what are we drinking in our glasses tonight? What do you guys have in your glasses? Somebody go first.
I'll start it off up in the top corner here. I have a little baby sample of a store pick from Millstone. This one is one they brought in large bottles of it at Kensington Wine Market, which is one of the go-to places in Alberta for barrel picks, because Andrew and the team there, they operate a lot like Irene. There are always bottles open in the back. They are constantly, you walk in and they're like, what do you like to drink? And then they bring you a glass that has something in it, and you just take it and you drink it because that's what you do. But they have all these relationships in the way that they operate. And so this isn't their first. They've done a few different ones with Millstone. This one is a barrel proof rye, and it is just all kinds of chocolate and awesome. And just go drink Millstone. Even if you can't get a barrel pick, go find the 100 rye or anything and buy Millstone, because it's good. Leanne, on to you. What are you drinking? Tasty.
So I'm on the independent bottle side of the world. It's not a store pick or a single barrel per se, but it is it's a Lonoc 19-year-old Klein Leash. Oh. And so this was the last Bastards Ball that we were at. Zach Andrews had this at the bottle share that night, and after we finished, he handed it to me, and this is probably the second or third one I've had, because I was like, yo, Zach, go buy some more of those for me. But it is I'm a huge Klein Leash 14 fan, of course, but being able to have an independent bottler up against the distillery version is so interesting to me on the differences. And this doesn't have near the waxy notes that a Klein Leash 14 does. It's quite bright and a little sprightly kind of thing going on, slightly effervescent, still bourbon matured, and it's at 46%. It's very approachable. But yeah, so that's what I'm starting my night off on, is a independent bottling of Klein Leash.
Very nice.
Hmm.
I froze up there for a minute. My internets were acting wonky, so. But I picked Lone Elm, which is a barrel pick that us as Whiskey Crusaders did. We actually went to the distillery. I lost count of the amount of barrels they opened for us to try. This particular one is 114.2 proof. Yeah, look how dark that is. It's like coffee, right?
That is insane.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
So that's a Whiskey Crusaders bottle, hey?
Yeah, this is one that we picked. William just put so many barrels. They just kept on popping them, and we just kept on drinking and drinking. But yeah, this is Texas whiskey at its best here, man. Look at that color; it looks like coffee. And it's
The
just
real Texas tea.
seriously. And this is a wheat whiskey. And I fell in love with Lone Elm when we went and tasted all the things that they have. I don't remember if that's our second or the first that we did. We did a couple picks with them. And if you have never done a barrel pick or been a part of one, they're so much fun if you do it at the distillery. It's so much fun. I love it.
That's what Irene was saying too. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a different experience. Irene, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm on my second one, so I was
Okay,
actually
well,
drinking
what was
Stellum.
your first and what's your
The first one is Stellum. It's
Stellum.
it's a new so it's a it's the Cygnus. It's the particular constellation.
Barrel.
I named it. It's from Barrell bourbon. It's called Spice of Life. This is their second line, kind of more half price. It's under $60 bottle. I would say it's probably a blend of 4 to 6 year old Indiana and maybe a little Tennessee. Not enough Tennessee to throw me off, so it's named Spice of Life because there is a bit of excuse me. Whew, it's a lot of different baking spices in it. It's quite bright. Lots of candied sweetness. When you first pour it, you give it about 15-20 minutes, and when you go nose it, there's this really cool sweet bubblegum notes that come out. And the reference to Tennessee whiskey, I'm not a huge fan for the most part. This is Blue Note from Tennessee, and I named it Skip the Note because it doesn't have the vitamin notes in it. But what I'm drinking right now is actually a bottle I'm really, really proud of. It's the Whistlepig 15-year cask strength that I blended last March. So
Wow.
I have 9 bottles left on the shelf out of 132.
Nine.
Hasn't been a year yet that we've had it, but yeah, that's really tasty. I think a bottle of it at some point in time is going to end up in the vault. So
Yeah,
I can't wait until it
Good.
does because I want to try that.
me too. So I think you
Yeah.
kind of touched on something, and Leanne, you said something. You kind of made a comment too when you were talking about your bottle. Is that I think we sometimes think about store picks as being single casks, and that quite often is the case. It's a cask selection, but the independent bottlers, sometimes they're single cask, sometimes it's a blend. But Irene, you're mentioning too that you've got some of your store picks are a blend. They're not necessarily a single
Yes.
cask. So,
Yep.
I guess I just kind of wanted to see, what are people's thoughts on it? Do you feel a little bit disappointed if when you go to an independent bottler and it's not a single cask, or when you find something, or do you just think, oh, here's where somebody's gotten really creative? What are some thoughts on that? Any biases one way or the other?
If it's good, that's all that matters.
Yeah, pretty much.
If whatever they did, whether it be blended or just single barrel in the cask, if it tastes good, that's what matters. I mean, I don't think you should be picky about things. A lot of people are, but I mean, I've got one here. It's actually a barrel product. Again, it's a pick. but it meets both criteria that we're talking about tonight. You know, they pull whiskey from all over, they blend it, they bottle it. But this happens to be a pick, and it's a blend. So, if it tastes good, that's what matters.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing too about independent bottlers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Land?
No, I was just saying, you know, independent bottlers get to do stuff that the distilleries don't get to. You know, a distillery may have a couple of, you know, one-off odd casks that they're not going to get to do a whole lot with, where an independent bottler can go in and snag those. You know, I've got one in specific we'll get to of SMWS that is so atypical of its distillery. You know, it is just like the antithesis of what that distillery is known for. But it's a freaking awesome whiskey, you know, and there's probably not enough of it for the distillery to do something else with it, you know. So that gets a lot. And then some of these independent bottlers, they can go and either get brand new juice, brand new distillate, and do something with it on their own, because some of them are that big now, especially in the Scotch world, because that's, quite frankly, big disclaimer, that's what I know. That's what I'm attempting to know. All the bourbonites out there, y'all just say bless your heart, Leanne, because it's not my realm of expertise. I went to Scotland going, I'm not going to like Scotch because bourbon's not my thing. And I was like, holy crap, this is awesome, you know? And then my life went kind of like that way. But yeah, so they've got a lot more, some of those can do. And like the Douglas Langs and, you know, the Gordon Vale, those were all grocery stores in Scotland that started as, you know, they had store picks and they just turned into the bottler there. Cadenhead, all of that is like that. So very interesting.
I think it's fascinating.
Nice segue.
I love my Douglas Lang.
Yeah, there's a couple comments going on.
So I have a barrel.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any of them, but I actually do have a barrel pick coming from them in a month or so. It's a 16-year from the Lowlands. It's a single grain Port Dundas.
Oh.
Very excited to get my first barrel of Scotch. So yeah, yep. But it was interesting, though, Theresa, that you mentioned that. So one of the things I actually have been thinking about now that I'm, you know, about 70 barrels deep, is that now everybody and their brother out there wants a single barrel. A lot of stores around me claim they have single barrels. They really don't. They kind of do. They buy a barrel and they have 15 stores, and each store gets a case. You know, big deal. But so my new thing moving forward, not that I'm not going to continue to buy single barrels. I just got back from a trip from Colorado, Colorado Springs, actually, to be exact. And so one of the things I'm trying to do for when I do retire from my day job is actually to do blending. So I'm calling this new thing beyond single barrel, right? Because single barrels are great for the people picking them, for the people consuming them, but for the distillery, it mostly doesn't make sense, because you can only have that many really good barrels that you can, you know, pick out as single barrels. What do you do with the rest of your stuff, right? So one of the things I want to do in my next life is to help distilleries do some of the blends and stuff like that, or to have them sacrifice some of the super duper single barrels and make that into maybe an annual release, like what Snowflake does, you know. So something that they can put out there that's really special to help put them on the map. So I think blends are definitely, for me at least, moving forward, the way to go.
I would love to be a blender. That just sounds like the best job in the whiskey field, is just to be a blender and a taster. Like, of course they go hand in hand. But
we talked about that last month, where you know, that's like an actual job, is, you know,
a taster,
you know, master taster,
to
make sure that you get that brand, keeping that brand consistency. But you know, outside of that, though, and that's where I think the artistry starts to kind of come in. I mean, it's important to be able to keep your brand consistent for those core lines. But like I said when I was doing the intro, I'm a unicorn hunter, and I love trying new things. I love exploring where things are going to be different and off the beaten path. And like Leanne mentioned with the SMWS, like what the independent bottlers give distilleries, they sort of fill a function. And I think, when you're doing a cask pick too, maybe less so. I don't know if it's less so or any, but you give them an outlet to take some of this stuff that might be really, really great on its own, but that it doesn't fit the mold of what they have. And I sort of, I guess for me, think of, those cask selections that people do as sort of, you still want it to taste like where it's coming from, if that makes sense. Or is that just my own bias in the back of my head, that if I see something and it's branded and it's bottled by, for instance, I've got a Kilchoman that was bottled for the Alberta market. I expect it to kind of be still in line with what I expect from Kilchoman. I don't expect it to be out in left field. I expect it to be something special and something different than what, the Sanig or the, some of the core lines are. But I still expect it to have that distillery fingerprint through it. Would that, do other people have that same expectation if you see that it's a branded bottling versus an IB?
Oh, I mean, definitely you would expect if it's coming from the distillery, that I loved how you put, the footprint or the fingerprint, the DNA of that distillate, because I think that's what you're really getting. You can kind of pick out how it came off the stills at particular distilleries. That something Lafroig is going to be this rich and oily and dense, and that something that Edradour is you have in your mind's eye, because of your palate, what all of those things are going to be like. So if a distillery is going to come out with something special like that, it's going to need to be within it, I think. They go out and beyond, especially on the casking, to play the fringes, but the base and the core of that whiskey, it's good. I feel it's good to be able to identify it. But with independent bottlers, I think all that's out the door. If they get something from a distillery, they can do whatever they are going to want to do to it, and that's where I kind of think it's cool to see something that's very different than what the distillery would have done.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was talking to William before we came on, and we were talking about we don't have very much for independent bottles here. We have a couple, but I brought up Oak and Eden. Oak and Eden they get their whiskey from MGP, but then they finish it in Texas and bottle it. So that kind of, it doesn't taste like what you would expect MGP to taste like. It's got completely different, profile and taste. So that kind of meets what you just said, Leanne, where, you get the whiskey, then it's out of the person who made its hands. What happens. So.
All right. Well, kind of on that note, I've already, my second one was Crowded Barrel Alliance. I poured the Wyoming whiskey. So I already drank through that. So I'm actually moving on. So this is one, and kind of, it's just because of the way Leanne was talking. So this one's a Duncan Taylor. They are an independent bottler out of Scotland. And this one is a Drumblade 2008 single cask Scotch. It says it's single cask, but it's also blended malt. So this is from their Octave series. And what they did is they took sourced spirits or from their collection, blended a malt together, and then finished it for 9 months in an Octave size cask, which is the smallest size commercial cask that you can get. And so they did that for, and it's just to give it that little something different. So actually I haven't dipped into this one in a while, and it smells so good. So what's everybody else on to?
Douglas Lane.
Go ahead.
Douglas Lane, Kalila. Yeah, it's an 8-year-old. Cask strength, one of I might as well have bought the whole barrel of it. There's 253 bottles. I've sold probably 60 or 70 of them, only because that was what was allocated to Connecticut. So the woman who brings this into the U.S. She brings me all the good stuff from Douglas Lang, and anybody that comes to the store and goes, I'm a Kalila fan, the Kalila 12, I'm like, you got your Kalila 12 has nothing on this bottle, and they taste it, and they're like, first they go, how dare you make this bold claim? And I'm like, just taste it. And I have a couple of guys that have been coming back to buy quite a few bottles. In fact, one of our whiskey sums, Cliff Smith, he lives in Connecticut, and he has at least probably 6 or 8 bottles.
He's my favorite.
I mean, it's just some. What's that?
He's my favorite whiskey mule.
So,
we actually had, and I couldn't find it. I searched and searched. We had a sample of the Garrison Brother pick that you did from a couple years back, and I couldn't find it, and I was quite upset. But I pulled a different Garrison Brothers pick that I have, because I have way more barrel picks than I have independent bottlers. So,
oh man. Well, first of all, I want to say, all those who want Irene to be your new BFF, raise your hand. Hey, friend.
I don't know if that means I have to move to Connecticut, but
I'm down with moving back to Connecticut. Let's do it.
You send me some Scotch, friend. I'll send you some jambalaya. No. So I'm going independent again with the Alexander Murray, the Dalmore. Guaranteed, no color added to this one for sure. And it's at 55.6, 15-year, and matured in just bourbon oaks. I've been on a bourbon oak matured thing. I hit my sherry thing, and then I do my peat thing. And when I want to reset the taste buds, I go back to bourbon matured scotches.
You go back to bourbon matured scotches.
Right. Not bourbon.
I like the pause in there. That
Dot.
Yeah.
Hey, Emily, thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, we got some folks on the chat. I'm trying to keep up with chat, but my really bad eyesight is not helping me.
So who had a Garrison pick out there? Which one of you?
I had it. We have a little liquor store about 45 minutes from us in a town called Weatherford. It's not a huge town. And the lady that runs the store actually has been on wine tasting panels with my husband. And my mother-in-law lives out in Weatherford, so she frequents this store, goes in there and says, I'm here to pick something out for William and Sarah. She knows what we like now. And typically it's a barrel pick that she picks that gets sent to us. So this was a Garrison Brother pick.
Oh, nice.
It's 94
How many years old?
So it's not huge.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Let's see, 3 years. 3 years.
So actually, the bottle so it's actually older than that. It's at least 4 years old. So they haven't changed the bottles, and then when they got new bottles, they still forgot to take the 3 years out of it. It's definitely older than 3 years.
It's kind of wiping away a little bit. The writing's kind of wiping away. It looks like it was distilled and barreled in 2015.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I can't be 100% certain on that what the years say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is one of my one of 15 barrel picks. This one is called Maple Marshmallow.
Nice.
So So a question for you guys: when you guys buy single barrel picks out there, do people actually name them? Because I name all of my barrels starting from 2019. Every single barrel has a name on it.
I don't think so. Most of the ones I see, they don't seem to.
I have one here that I'm going to get to here in a minute that is named. I've seen several that are named, but the ones that we've done 3, and we haven't named them. So
we have a little bourbon club here in Baton Rouge with 700 plus members.
Nice.
It is the bomb,
nice.
and just a little club. You know, we have a whole street called Bourbon in Louisiana. You know, so it's kind of a thing. So, but they've done different picks through the different stores, and they name. They did a whole series where they were like spoofs of Marvel characters. You know, and they were just they were awesome, and it coordinated with their do I have one real close with the distillery. So like they did, is it Tumbling Dice is one? Is that a distillery? No.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so that was a spinoff
it's actually,
on
Proof and Wood.
On Rogue. You know, and the Gambler, and it was just it's really cool, really great graphics to the point where people are wanting to make sure they have the whole set, you know, so that was a kind of a buying thing too, you know.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So actually, on the subject of garrisons also and blending, what I've done, at least two of the 15 barrel, 4 of the 15 barrels I purchased. Sometimes I buy them with the intention of having my customers blend them, right? So they all go, damn you know, you do it so we buy more bottles. I go, no. So, because what I found most times is, like I had Barrel 9 and 10. Barrel 9 was called Sweet Hot Cocoa. So you got the sweet up front, you got the hot, like cinnamon hot, like Fireball hot in the middle, and cocoa was the chocolate in the back. And then Barrel 10 was called the Cinnamon Toast, and Cinnamon Toast didn't have a sweeter nose up front, but the cinnamon was more like a baking spice that filled your palate, and then the toast was the oak backbone that 9 lacked. So when you tasted them side by side, they were pretty good, but when you blended them just 50-50, I called it, you know, magic happens, and everybody that tasted it that way went home with 2 bottles, because something about that blend took the spice of the first barrel, toned it way down, and then it brought the chocolate like right out, and it was fantastic. And so I felt like, do we always have to blend them? I go, you don't have to blend them. You can just buy 1 bottle. The distillery actually offered to blend for me. I'm like, no, because I don't know how many bottles are in each, right? I'm like, no, we're not going to blend them that way. Just send them to me, and then I will make sure that I'll show people the experiment on how to blend them. So that's why I name my barrels. Sometimes the mood I'm in when I'm tasting it, but a lot of times I'm trying to give people the, you know, like what my tasting notes, but not always. Like I have a Zen barrel. Every time I taste this whiskey, it puts me in a Zen mood. But the latest barrel is called Cookies and Spice. So they're all different, and I usually name them first thing in the morning, a day or 2 after I pick the sample, and I said, don't print the label yet. Let me go think about it. So 6 o'clock in the morning, usually my cat and I don't know where he's tonight, but you know, he'll hop out here and he'll sniff all the samples with me, and then I'll do my tasting. And then that's when I name my barrels. So, and it's really fun because when you have so many barrels, it's hard to remember. And so the other thing I also do on my label, I have a QS on it. One of my customers goes, "You're the queen of whiskeys. We'll put a QS on it for Queen Select." So that kind of stuck. So it's a QS, and it's a number after each bottle, after each barrel, and there's a number of barrels that purchased from each distillery. So like Garrison's has a QS 15, so I purchased 15 barrels from them. Okay. You know, Whistlepig has a QS 7, a QS 8, and so if you see a random bottle out there with a QS on it, it's most likely mine. So,
wow.
But why?
Cool.
I think that's sort of interesting though, because it's not something that even in the like I think like the independent bottlers, some of them have their little shtick. Like I've got a Blackadder sitting over here, and so they have, you know, where they are naming some of their bottles or their lines after different types of snakes. And so even if it's a single cask, or if it like the red snake, for instance, you know, it means it's going to be a certain style or it's going to be a certain thing. But you know, really, the naming of individual picks, that seems to be, there's only a handful that seem to do it, but some of those are the most fun. Like I hear Scotch whiskey, you know, Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, and it sounds like a stuffy kind of a thing. Oh, that looks so cool. But then you hear their names and it's like, oh my goodness, this could be so pretentious. And then you have, a wet summer in the sun or something like that. Like, I don't know. Like, y'all are familiar with Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, I'm sure. And their name
barbecue and fishnets. I had it this week with my friend. Barbecue and fishnets.
So I've got this one here since we're talking about it. I'm sure several of you have seen this bottle come up before on our stream. So this is a Balcones pick that was done by a store about 30 minutes from us. Big Country Liquor, I think it's called. But they did Mozilla, the Fury of the French Oak. That's what they called this one. And this particular barrel pick, it's the single malt. It's 65.2%. And for those of you, Big Country whiskey or liquor, sorry, beer and wine. For those of you who get access into the vault or in the vault, the bottle of this will be down there come next month. So we're going to bring one on down and let them have it in the vault there.
So this is one of our Bourbon Society of Baton Rouge picks from a startup 1.5-year-old distillery in outside Baton Rouge and Gonzales called Sugarfield Spirits. So they took the Sugarfield part of this and instead of Dr. Strange, like they did Dr. Strange Field.
I love it. And
did the unbelievable kind of graphics. So that's what I was talking about, like the spin-off of the different comics.
This I have to say this now. This has been one of my favorite picks that we've purchased. It just that French oak, it gives it brings out this fruitiness, like cantaloupe and like papaya that I've never gotten in a whiskey, not a whiskey, a single malt like this before. Plus Texas at its core with the color of oil, as it was stated earlier in the stream.
Yes.
That's how Texas does it, folks. But yeah, the flavors on this bottle are just insane to me. So good.
So I've got a question because you mentioned the proof on that. Do you get disappointed when you find a store pick and it's been proofed down to like 46% instead of bottling at cask strength? Or am I a snob for feeling like
I am, as we know, a high proof whore. So I search out the high proof single barrel picks. I prefer them. And I think if it's going to be a barrel pick and we're picking the single barrel and we like the single barrel,
it should be
why are we changing it after we pick it?
Yeah.
Because
and
all right, so this is
let me make that bigger.
Yeah. Oh,
Whistle Pig.
This is Whistle Pig Umbarana cask. So
yes, I want to know.
Probably the only thing.
I want to know from the master why we would water it, proof it down.
Okay, so I tasted this when I went to blend my 15-year. Pete decided that I was the best single barrel buyer he ever met because I didn't even touch the whiskey till we talked for an hour. Apparently, everybody else just drinks the samples and the guy will take that one. So we had a really nice conversation about the process, and because he was master blender at the Whistle Pig, we had a really nice conversation. And so after we picked, we did the blend together, and then he goes, here's a barrel I've never wanted to sell before, but having met you, can you taste this? If you like it, you can have it. So I tasted it at cask strength. It was about 117, but it didn't have a whole barrel of it. And Umbarana wood is, if you don't know, it's a Brazilian teak wood. And what for me it does is it imparts a lot of nice tropical notes. Like you get coconut, a little bit of salt. It's just really, it's like a almost not incense, like a sandalwood type flavor. So the reason it's proofed down to 86 proof is because he took half the barrel, proofed mine down to 86, and then the rest of it went into a Boss Hog number 7 of this year. So that was the compromise I had to make. But at 86 proof, I have to say this is, and the bottle of this is going with Cliff to the vault next month when he goes for level 2. Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be in the bottle, and it is the most different whiskey ever. So when we were talking about how it should all taste like the core product, this tastes nothing like what Whistle Pig makes. When you smell it, you're like, what is that? And but like if you have a sweeter tooth, you'll probably like it. The nose is on the sweeter side, but it's really not sweet. And this is one I named my Zen Barrel, because that is the mood it puts me in when I drink it. So so this will be the only case I'd make an exception for. But otherwise, yes, I don't do barrel picks that are proof down. I always tell them, like, look, if you proof it down, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I guess it really kind of depends. Like if it's being done with intention. But when I go out and I see that every single store in town has their own barrel pick of, whether it's Buffalo Trace or Jack Daniels or something, and they're all sitting at 46%, and it just kind of like, oh well, so by default I'm like, really, why did you do that? Like it doesn't. Whereas there are those stores that I know that are going and doing intentional picks, and if they chose to proof it down, I would feel differently. And knowing that you are the one that are, your palate is making that judgment call, I trust you on that when it's just somebody at random. But
brings this particular comment from Ethan here. I think that it's fine as long as the barrel pick team tastes it at the lower proof too.
Yes.
I've always been a firm believer though of, okay, I'm picking this barrel and I like the way it tastes the way it is. But if you want to buy this bottle and then proof it down yourself, there's always that. I mean, you can always proof it down yourself. You can't proof it up, So
here's the thing. Yeah, but with the big distilleries, they don't do that, right? So a few years ago, I got my Knob Creek 120 proof. It's a 14-and-a-half-year-old. So my first reaction when they sent me samples of this is, I'm like, why are you sending me this? It's just a waste of my time. But I tasted it, and it was pretty phenomenal. So for me, phenomenal and Knob Creek doesn't end up in the same sentence, but it was really good. So it was 133 proof, and I was like, I like it at that proof. I said, and I knew they were going to fight me on proofing it, not proofing it down. So the whole thing of it is when it's a big brand like this, they don't have a barrel proof bottling anywhere, any of their special releases. It costs them money to do the label, right? They have to submit it and all that good stuff. But it costs them not that much money. So I said, look, it's going to cost you $200. I'll give you the $200 right now. Just leave my sample at 133. They're like, no, we can't do that. I go, all right, because that was really, really good barrel, I'll buy it. But I said never again. So the next year, they sent me another barrel, actually recently in my store. The next barrel sample was a 9.5-year-old, 11.5-year-old, and 12.5-year-old. This time around, they got smart because I think they got a lot of complaints. So they sent me the kit with how to proof it down to 120. So I got to taste it at barrel strength. Then I got to taste it at 120, and then decide whether it lost enough flavor that I didn't want to have it. So, but I didn't. Actually, it was a really nice 9.5-year-old. So you don't always have a choice. With the small distilleries, absolutely, you have a choice to do that. But with the big distilleries, they're like, yeah, take it or leave it. And most times I'm inclined to say I'm going to leave it, unless it's really, really good. So.
Yeah, we haven't done any picks with the bigger distilleries like that. I mean, Balcones is a decent size, but it's still a craft distillery. They're still growing. They're still not everywhere. The same with Lone Elm. And the other one that we did was Iron Root. And that was a YouTube pick, and it was a collaboration of, I think it was 12 or something like that, different YouTube channels, all tasting the same samples and narrowing it down, and we actually come to a consensus on one. I'm not drinking that tonight because it's one and only, and I don't want that bottle to fast. It's been around since the last Bastards Ball. We did it then, and it's about halfway gone. So it stayed buried this evening.
Well,
But they didn't. I've got an echo. Is it still there?
no. I think it's because I was kept kind of starting to talk and then not talking, so I don't
Gotcha.
think it was a true echo. But I'm pulling out for my
What do you
next
got
one.
there?
I'm pulling out a Red Snake. It's a raw cask, and I'm trying to show you here. You see all those flavor crystals just floating around in there. Like, oh my goodness, that is. So that's something I wanted to maybe kind of ask the question to everybody and in the chat too. Is there a bottle that you have, and of course you would never get anything like this from a distillery, I don't think. Probably from an independent bottler where they are doing something that is just so different and unique that, cause like I said, I love my unicorns, and it's like they've hardly filtered this at all. They basically they filter out the big chunks, and that's your barrel char coming through, and you get little chunks of it in the bottle. I just think that that's such a neat thing to go back to, right? Like I like that. So is there something that you like that an independent bottler does, or that you can do with a single cask, or something that's just sort of out there? What are those, the unicorn of unicorns kind of thing experiences? Liam, what about you? Any favorites or memorable things?
Well, I guess so I was in 2019 I was on the Isla Whiskey Academy. It's a 5-day on-premise education course, and I actually won a competition to have that slot, which is really pretty cool. And I was on the Whiskey Crusader talking about that after I got back, still aglow. 2 years later, I'm still aglow over Isla. But one of the things that I found interesting there is different people can get cask on that island. Jim McEwen has his own set of cask that he got paid with, while he was at Brooklotti, and now he's bottling some of those under the Cask Whisperer label. And you talk about a unicorn. That they're out of Sweden, and it's very difficult to get them here. But that's definitely one. But another one was the last video I did was for Brooklotti's 2011 Isla Barley. And while on Isla, we toured the distillery with Adam Hannock, got the way back, backdoor tour on all of that. But we met the farmer, one of the farmers whose name is on that bottle, and he poured that expression to us in his barn on his farm. And I'm like,
is that the malt barn guy?
Yeah. I'm going, like my head's exploding. Well, that was on Wednesday. On Friday night, we graduated. I'm trying not to boohoo because I got to come back to reality, And every night we would go to where all of us were staying in different apartments on Isla, and we would have unbelievable selections. And Hunter brought one of his casks for us to enjoy. And it had been made at Brooklotti. He had been paid in a cask. And I'm like, the man who grew the barley and got paid with this cask is sharing this cask with 6 other people he only met Wednesday, And there's no way in hell I can buy a bottle of that, but I can still taste it. And I still remember sitting in that living room on freaking Isla, you know, with his dogs running around. And, you know, one of us was, Jen, my friend from Houston, and me, a guy from Nova Scotia, Paul, who's a dentist there, a guy from Brooklyn, John McShane from the SMWS, my buddy Michael, who has Inverurie whiskey shop, you know, in Scotland. And I'm just sitting here going, this man thought enough of us to share his whiskey, his family whiskey. And that was really a pretty cool moment.
That's pretty awesome.
That's
pretty cool.
Fantastic.
That's something that just it'll always be just in your head, and you'll always remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very awesome.
And
that goes to show exactly what whiskey is meant to do. To be shared, to be enjoyed with friends.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And it doesn't have to be a single cask, and it doesn't have to be something weird and off the wall or anything to do that.
No.
But when it is, it just heightens it that little bit. Like I don't know, Irene, I'm gonna out you on something here, and you know, if it gets you in trouble with the you know, I don't know. But I think it was Psalm 2. It was either Psalm 2 or Psalm 3. And Catan and I were sitting out at Angle Brick and talking, and you showed up. It was before classes started the next day, and you had just arrived, and you're like, so I kind of broke the law by carrying this on the plane. I don't know if that's how you started, but you know.
Oh, that.
And yeah, you're like,
kind of like that.
Yeah, you've been, you know, you'd been to Texas, then you'd had to fly back to Connecticut for like a day, and then you were coming back to Texas right away for some class. And you had this cask sample from Garrison Brothers that you had wanted to bring and share, and you poured it for us, and it was over 70%, which means that carrying it on an airplane without it being designated as dangerous goods is technically illegal or something. But
breaking the law
didn't happen. But
something like that.
She's such a badass.
Yeah, you know, she's totally badass. But like, I've never been a fan of Garrison Brothers. That was probably the best Garrison Brothers I've ever had. But it was bottled at like it was a cask sample at 73%. So
yeah, that was Barrell 8.
It was such a cool experience. Like, those are the kinds of things that you just you bond over, right? No, that was for me. I always tell people that Garrison's is such a polarizing bourbon, right? Because you either love it or hate it. And I'm always happy to share. I tell people, I'm like, obviously you don't have to like it, but obviously most of my customers like it enough to have about 15 barrels from them. And even though they're small barrels, they cost a lot of money. But Barrell 8, the one, the sample that Theresa was talking about, was pretty special because it was 146.1 proof. And I picked it the spring before, and I bought 5 barrels that day. We went around and we were just kind of drilling holes. Like, they go, you don't do that anymore, but that's what we used to do. Drill a hole and grab your glass and get some whiskey. So barrel number 4001 was barrel number 8 for me, and it had a special, unique characteristic about it. I can't put my finger on it, but I said, send these 2 barrels now. Send these 2 in the fall. Next one, send a year later. Which one, you can never tell a big distillery to do that. They'll tell you to take a hike. But with me and Garrison, that was very possible. So, but by doing that, I took a chance that barrel was going to be a hunk of wood when it showed up, right? Because this is in Texas. So a year from now, who knows? But I luckily my palate didn't steer me wrong, and it was probably one of my, other than Barrel 1, probably one of my favorite barrels from Garrison's. But I have another somewhat illegal story, but won't get me in trouble. Is the Blue Note I was telling you guys about. So this is a kind of new brand, right? It's all sourced and all that good stuff. So they sent me a barrel, the empty barrel, just before Christmas, even though I said I don't want this until next year because I had too many barrels coming in. So they sent me this barrel, 52-gallon barrel, and the guy who brought it in says, this is kind of heavy. I'm like, God, what kind of whip I got? My whiskey tasting room, I got all kinds of barrels. I'm always rolling them around.
So I go to roll this thing, and it's swishing noise. I'm like, wait a minute, I think there's whiskey in there. So this is just before Christmas, so Christmas Eve. Finally had enough time to prop it up on a couple of blocks. Brought a big stainless steel pot, drill a hole in the bung, drill a hole in the bottom, and I drained, no lie, 5 full bottles of this out of that barrel.
Wow.
It was amazing. It came out, it was like black. I'm like, holy crap, I hope we can really drink this thing. But it smelled amazing. So we let it drain till, about 5 o'clock. We closed at 6 that day. And the only filter I had when I put it in the bottles was paper towels. So you caught all the char and, whatever big char and the rest of the fine char all in on the bottom. So if you didn't shake the bottle, but for, I would say probably about a week or so, it stayed really, really cloudy. But the taste on it was out of sight. It was just like, tasting it side by side with this, people go, well, how did they change? And that was my tasting bottles. I had 5 of them. What for me, by not doing any kind of filtration at all, right? Because even at the distillery, I think they did like a 30 micron filter. So it just takes all the char and a few things. But filtered through not even a coffee filter, just paper towels. The mouthfeel was just amazing. It was just like, it was these layers of smoothness that you didn't get from something that got, So I don't know, but that was very, very cool. But I couldn't say who they were because I would get. Yeah, so the people who shipped it would have gotten in trouble if I identified them. I said, "Hey, this barrel showed up and it's really tasty." But that was really fun.
That's still pretty
But
cool.
good marketing ploy for them though, if they would do that on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. The barrel was empty.
I'd love to get a magical barrel with something in it.
Empty cast. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, five whole bottles. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that happens too often, but
probably not.
Yeah. So
that's great.
I'm moving on to this is a regional selection. So this is actually I bought a second bottle of it, and it's an Amrut. This is a peated port pipe. This was one I think I pulled it out on the channel before, but near and dear because this one was picked by a good friend of mine who's no longer with us. He passed last year, unfortunately, but he was the local rep for Amrut, and this one was bottled for Western Canada. I think it was Alberta and BC. It might have made it into Saskatchewan, but this was one of the bottles that changed my life because it got me down that road of thinking about peat and actually being able to enjoy peated whiskey. So this is not a store pick, but it is a regional single cask bottling. Somehow there are still bottles of this out there, which is shocking to me. I think it's because the store that has the cases, they're pricing it a little bit high, but I don't know. I'm pouring this one. It's just, yeah.
Oh,
And while I'm at it, so Leanne, you had a story on your YouTube channel or a DIY project on things that you can do with your empty tubes and such, and I'm like, that's such a brilliant idea. But then I'm like, but I have these ones that have like, it's got a door, so. I'm going to challenge you. You got to come up with something that I can do. Like, can I make this fit to Glencairn somehow?
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that.
You're going to have to give me another like craft project that I'm able to do to save this because
get your glue gun out. Actually, a friend of mine, Mark Rhoda from the Scotch for Dummies. He will cut the boxes, and he's made a backdrop of all the different boxes, the fronts of the boxes. I can't claim it, but I'll steal it. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you'll
in
have
Louisiana,
a DIY on that in a month.
Right. In Louisiana, we we have open container. In New Orleans, of course, and some other places, we have drive-through daiquiri barns. We have, and it's legal to have it in your car if you don't put the straw in it. If the straw is in the paper and it's not inside, it's legal. But we call it a goey. Hey, I need a goey, meaning I need a go cup. And I don't know if I'm that prissy or what, but I don't drink out of plastic. So So I've got a piece of felt. I got my Glencairn. I'm going to wrap her up real nice, and then I've cut off, a Glendronach port pipe. And now this will live through anything. I throw it into my backpack, into my purse, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I am. We were definitely having a lot of fun on the channel, coming up with some crazy things. But this is what I'm drinking now is the SMWS, and it's the Sweet, Warm, and Lively. And it is 96.24. 96 is one of my favorite distilleries. This is Glendronach. This is the is the antithesis of what they're known for. This is only bourbon matured. No sherry touched this whiskey. And it's one of the other the 5 whiskeys you need in 2021 has been around in lots of different iterations, and Drew from Scotch for Dummies challenged me to make a video, and there was one of the categories was impress your guests. And so this was my actual bottle, or one like it, to impress your guests, instead of something that might be a highly allocated or a really high dollar bottle. It was an independent bottle.
You know what? And as a unicorn person, that is totally the thing. Like, I would rather give me an independent bottle that is unique and different. I don't care about the freaking allocated crap out there. Like, I'm sure it's good for the people who like it, but if I'm going to drop money, give me something that nobody else.
This is so delightful. It is sweet, warm, and lively. It's just very, very easy. It's scarily easy to drink at 57.9 ABV. Like, no water needs to go. I love playing with my whiskey. Don't get me wrong, but this don't need a drop.
So I'm gonna hop here for a second and make sure that I touch a few points in the chat here. Donald has dropped a couple links in the chat. First, he dropped Leanne's link for YouTube.
Thanks. Yes. Thank you.
If you haven't checked her out, go check her out. Subscribe. She's also over on Instagram as well. And then we have a Discord, Whizcord. This has several different channels are in there. Sub Discord. There's the bar. There's what you purchase. There's everything you could possibly think about whiskey is over there on the Discord. If you want to talk to somebody at 2 a.m, go to Discord. They're there.
Yeah.
They're
might be on the other side of the world, but they're there.
They're there. And there's lots of stuff that goes on there over there. Donald also dropped Whiskey Mentors at their Facebook page, but she's also over on Instagram as well. Check that out. Follow Irene more with her wonderful stories and barrel picks. So I just wanted to go ahead and get those out of the way there. In case anybody had missed that, click the links, follow. And also, I've moved on to this giant bottle here. This is Kirkland. Kirkland brand. It's actually Alexander Murray. But this is specifically Kirkland, bottled for Kirkland for selling at Costco. This is a giant jug of Irish whiskey aged 4 years. And the funny thing is, this particular bottle, this particular brand, it's imported by Misa Imports of Dallas, Texas, but we can't buy it here. We cannot buy this here. So it's kind of ironic that it's imported here, but we can't buy it. We can't get Kirkland anywhere. Costco, nothing. But I have several different Kirkland expressions here, and they're actually doing a pretty good job with what they're doing for the price of the whiskey that they're selling. That I think they said this bottle was in the $30 range for it.
Kind of crazy. Oh,
I think we just lost Irene.
Oops.
Hopefully she comes back because she was next up to tell us what she's drinking. So, she's
I think
circling.
she's having some interwebs problems.
Okay.
So
Sorry, continue your Kirkland story. Hopefully we can get her back.
Yeah, so we can't get this here, but we've gotten several different expressions from our buddy through the Whiskey Crusader side. He gets them and is very nicely played a whiskey mule for us and sent us all of these expressions that we have. They have different, the dreaded inner tubes issues. They have, obviously, the Irish. They have a bourbon. They have scotches. They have a peated blended scotch. We have I think it's a 12-year over there. And then I think we have a 20-year or something like that. I don't remember. I didn't dig it out. But they've got a lot of expressions. So if you have Costco around you, check it out. See if they sell the Kirkland. And it's a very good bargain whiskey.
Well, it's both. It's both a store pick and an independent bottling. It's kind of like worlds colliding for tonight. It's like seriously, it's the epitome of Miss Independent, all the single casks, all the single casks. It's not. I mean, it's not a single cask, but no. But it's a store bottling that's been independently sourced through an IB, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And criminally, those who are in the know just how awesome that they can be, but criminally underrated if you just think, oh well, it's Kirkland brand. No,
I mean, for instance,
sourcing good shit.
For instance, those of you who know Will, I called him William earlier. That's what I call him. His name on YouTube is Will. Okay. For those of you who know Will, he loves peated scotch. Well, he's been drinking the crap out of this blended. This is the blended scotch, Kirkland, and it's peated. I won't drink it, but you can see the Alexander Murray down here. But he's been drinking the crap out of this stuff. So it's not bad whiskey, you know?
I know. I have a friend who's been in the spirits business, Buddy Dennis. He's been in the spirits business for longer than probably either one of y'all been alive. And he absolutely adores Kirkland's brands.
Yeah, they've got a Tennessee whiskey, Kirkland. So, I mean, and I have not touched this bottle. So obviously the whiskey is not bad. And so, I mean, yeah, if you have access to Kirkland and you want yourself a good, daily drinker, is what he used it for essentially, try it. It's good.
Well, even their blended malts. I had friends that were trying to find, because the whiskey community up here is really tight, and people know, and as soon as the word gets out on some of those things, they just sell out. So Kirkland had a 23 and a 21 year, and they just disappear off the shelves as soon as they hit. And apparently the 21 just got recalled. Apparently there were some cork issues or something. So
Really?
I mean, I ended up muling that because I found stashes when I did my my distillery tour earlier this month. And yeah, it was kind of crazy. I had friends who were like, yeah, if you find this, buy it and we will buy it from you. I'm like, okay.
Apparently Steve asked William if he wanted to bring down some of the Kirkland 12.
I didn't know.
But I mean, is that what we have over there? We have a baseball bat of Kirkland. Give me that. Of Kirkland 12.
Jeez.
Okay,
It's
look at
almost done.
my forearm.
It's like a cricket bat or
Is that
something,
like a
man.
1.5 liter?
That's
or
a big
what?
ass bottle.
Yeah, it's a 1.75. But yeah, this is the 12 here. Obviously, it's good. You've seen the box that came in when it got sent
Now
to us.
that we've got Irene, you seem to be stable and you're here for now. So, because we lost you there for a bit, what are you drinking? Oh, Irene, are we gonna lose her
She's
again?
frozen again.
I think she's oh.
Yeah, she's breaking up.
You're breaking up. We can't hear you, Irene. I'm sorry. Oh, shoot.
To that, Steve A just put that 1.75 is $35, folks.
Jeez.
$35.
Oh my goodness, that's like a better deal than the Adelphi, Dancing Man blended whiskey or blended Scotch. Like
You gotta be able to find an Adelphi. Ain't no such animal in this state.
You can't get Adelphi?
Not down here.
Can you get Ardnamurchan? Have you gotten the new Ardnamurchan yet?
No.
Oh. We need to
No.
come visit. You need to come
Bourbon
visit.
is supreme down here. We've got some retailers that are really trying hard to bring in some Scotch and all. And then I go to Texas twice a year for sure. And 2 weeks ago, I was there, and it's almost like a Smokey and the Bandit kind of situation where I'm eastbounded down, loaded with 2 cases of Scotch, hauling ass on I-10, getting back to Louisiana. So yeah.
I guess that kind of leads me into the next conversation that I wanted to sort of touch on. I know we're going past 8 o'clock, but if we hit 8:30, that's fine. I'm drinking whiskey. You're all drinking whiskey. We just need an excuse to drink whiskey, right? Like,
do I really need an excuse?
Well, it's Sunday night and we got friends over.
It's Sunday night and I have to work in the morning.
Reason, but I wanted to touch on the idea that there are some of these independent bottlers who are using that as a way to fund their distilleries. And it sort of overlaps with 2 different things. So we've got, like we talked about Adelphi. They started their own distillery, Ardnamurchan, and the Adelphi brand. They were able to build up a reputation. They were able to build up supply chain through that. And also we're doing some really cool experimental blends to help fund things so that they could age their whiskey in the background. And then you've also got places like Douglas Lang, who all they have ever done is independent bottling, and yet they have built a distillery. They've been sitting on casks that have been a cask collection that has been in the family going back almost 100 years, I think. And those who know Douglas Lang know better than I do just how long they have had casks in the family. But they have started a distillery, and in the next few years, Douglas Lang is going to be coming out with their own product. And I think that's really exciting to see. So I don't know. I was going to bring that. And now we have Irene back again. So I want to know what Irene is drinking. So 2 thoughts in one.
Sorry.
I think it's awesome.
Bad
and now,
internet.
Irene, what are you drinking?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, maybe.
Yep.
Crap.
We can hear you.
Maybe if I switch computers.
Oh,
Maybe that'll happen.
oh, she's having issues hearing us, I think.
Well, and to your point, Theresa, Hunter Lang, that family, that offshoot has
The
now
brother.
Ardnahoe on Isla.
Right. They also,
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
that they were doing, I didn't know that they were connected.
And then there is a and God, Alistair is gonna like kick my butt for not knowing this, but there's a new distillery on the Isle of Rosse, which is just north, just over off the coast of Skye, where Talisker is, and it's Raasay, and they the owners of that come from a long line of blenders and independent bottling. and they are now starting a distillery. So that's definitely a trend.
We did a review from a distillery in Rosse. I don't remember what it was called.
It's the only one.
I know, but I don't remember what it's fucking called.
And yeah, and their expressions, they would do some, and Kilkerran did this too, like a work in progress or a while we wait is what they named the ones that they were putting out at Rosse. Let's see. I'm butchering that, I'm sure.
Rosse?
Mm-hmm.
I think
it's gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go there. It's just so pretty. Y'all, I need to hit the lotto. I live in Baton Rouge, had the camp in the swamp in a nice little, croft house in Scotland.
So I gotta ask, just because I know I don't know much about Louisiana, but I picture swamps and just marshlands and that kind of thing, and it just feels very nostalgic and romantic in its own way. But since y'all have swamps, y'all must have peat, and I'm thinking that, I mean, it's completely unrelated to what we're talking about tonight, but there's got to be a Louisiana distillery that's making some sort of Louisiana peated whiskey. Is there? Do you know anything about something?
Not
like
that I know of yet. We've got a couple
like
of distilleries. Yeah, our peat is very muddy. So where Isla's peat and the Highland peat is more dirtish, ours is more sludgish. If you know what I mean. It's just like it's gumbo. Yeah, it is. But we have lots of decomposing organic matter in the state of Louisiana. So that's for sure. Oh, there she is. There
Hi,
go.
sorry.
Irene. All right, so Irene, what are you drinking?
Rough
you got
Rider.
right now?
It is called Asian Plum Spice. It's a 2-year-old rye from Long Island. It's grain to glass in Long Island. We just picked it a few months ago. It showed up about 3-4 weeks ago, and I named it Asian Plum Spice because if you ever go into an Asian grocery store and you see those little dried plums, the preservative that they use or the flavoring, it's a sour plum powder. So I couldn't call it that because nobody would drink this. It's a really interesting rye. It's not finished in anything. It's just the terroir that produced this incredible. I'm gonna have to make sure a bottle makes it out to the vault. It is probably the most unique rye you would have ever tasted. So it's huge barrel, and I bought this barrel with one thing in mind, is to make whiskey sours with it, because it's got all of those notes, right? So Long Island Distillery is less than a mile from Long Island Sound, so they get a lot of the salty air and stuff like that. So the barrels definitely this whiskey has a lot of salt in it, but it also has some really dark plum notes in it, and it's a huge finish. It just goes on and on. Lots of cinnamon. It's not a classic rye at all. But when you taste it, at first you go, what am I tasting? And it's a love-hate relationship. You're gonna love it or hate it. But in a whiskey sour, it's like a match in heaven. So 2 ounces of that, 1 ounce of fresh squeezed lemon, and I don't like it sweet, so I would say 2/3 ounce of simple syrup. Shaken ice tray in it on a 95-degree day. You get drunk really quickly because this is 121 proof. Super tasty stuff. So anyway.
Love it. Sounds good. I can't wait till I can see some of these bottles that you're mentioning in the vault.
Oh, you could just come on up and see me in Connecticut.
I know, but it's a 3.5 hour drive to Austin versus a plane ticket to Connecticut.
Yeah, but there's going to be about
to North Carolina, because I'm going there in like October.
So September 25th is actually my unicorn whiskey event. So there's going to be some craziness. Every year it gets bigger and bigger. Last year, pre-COVID, we had 84 people show up, and my store at the time hadn't expanded next door to my tasting room. The 100 square feet, the 1,000 square feet of space I actually had the pop tents out in the back on the back of the store so that people could actually, kind of mingle and stuff. But this year, I'm going to limit it to 150 people, and people are like trying to sign up. Like, how do we sign up? I'm like, I don't know yet. Let me figure it out. But there's going to be at least minimum of 20 rare whiskey, so all the unicorns, obviously. And this year I'm actually including not just bourbons and ryes. I'm doing scotches and maybe some high-end tequilas and maybe a rum or so. But then other people around me are, because it's all for my local. I keep it really local. All the money goes to the local food bank, the volunteer fire department, the school, and the library. So
that's
last
fabulous.
year, yeah, thanks. Last year, in 2 hours of whiskey tasting, we generated over $5,000 to donate to a local charity. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but this year, Sarra, who brings me Douglas Lang stuff, she's volunteering to pour, so she's gonna bring her portfolio to pour, and then people that buy single barrels from are all coming to pour. And I'm like, I don't have room for all of you guys, which is kind of crazy because I don't ask for help. This is an event that I've done for the last 6 years. It's just usually I'm the only one pouring because people want to know there's like 20 whiskeys that they can pick from, but you can only drink 10 because in 2 hours you shouldn't drink cask strength whiskeys, at that rate and be able to drive them safely. So I'm like, you get a tab. Every tab you give me gives you, but actually you don't even need a tab now because there's a list and you pay for 10 tastes. If it's a 15-year Pappy, it's $15. 23-year Pappy is $23. It's 30-year, Delmore, it's $30, whatever it is. And so people have a good time. It's a little quarter-ounce taste, but they get a chance to taste, something rare that they would normally not get. So I was always able to do all my own pours, but last year it got so big, actually one of my staff had to help me pour because it was just 20 whiskeys, so it's a little bit too many. But this year I'm still going to try and keep it to about 20, but then there's all these other extra pours around. So it should be a good time. So come on up and see me at September 25th.
Okay, so I just have to get to Connecticut in September and then on to North Carolina in October. And I need to get back to Texas. I'm not rich enough to like whiskey as much as I do. I really don't. But we're getting close to 8:30, so we've been going for like an hour and a half. And I mean, I'm good to keep going. I said that earlier, but just in case, because I kind of feel like maybe I know we've talked a lot and whatnot, but Leanne, where can we find you other than like we know Scotch on the Bayou, but where is Scotch on the Bayou? How do we find you?
So well, I'm in Baton Rouge, Red Stick, Louisiana. Just kind of came about this like everybody else as an enthusiast, got excited about it. I've clearly never met a stranger. So, oh my.
There's no strangers in whiskey. Like,
no. There's just like
friends you haven't met.
Fabulous people. And then there are some outliers, but you can't rock everybody's baby. Whatever. But yeah, so I started doing an Instagram account, just Scotch on the Bayou, all one word, of course, in the Instagram world, just because I wanted to feel like I had a voice. And I love the fact that you ladies have this show because there's still, not to get on a soapbox or anything, but there's still some that don't understand that women can like whiskey. Yeah. And I was actually asked in a liquor store if I was buying the whiskey for my husband, and I was like, honey, let me see your hand. And he's like, what? And I said, let me see your hand. And I grabbed his hand and I looked at it and I rubbed his hand and I said, it's amazing to me that you don't have more calluses built up from dragging your knuckles. And he just looked at me and I was like, all right, he didn't get it. Dude, I don't need to be relegated to the schnapps in the vodka aisle. I can drink whiskey, and odds are I know more about you, boo. So it was one of those things where I just felt like I don't want other people. and I am a woman of a certain age, and I have disposable income. I have, we don't need to be afraid to drink whiskey. If that's something someone wants to do, if you want to do it and do it responsibly, then the table should be open for everybody in that situation. So I just felt like I had a voice, and I wanted to let it ring loudly. So I was like, what the hell, we'll try this YouTube thing out. And so I launched it in early April. I think I have like a whopping 12 videos out there right now. But it's also to showcase Louisiana's culture. And there's a lot, this state, y'all, it is just an absolute wonderland of culture and food and music and heritage. And I want people to see that, to experience that. There are a lot of similarities between Louisiana and the Scottish culture. Louisianans came here, the Cajuns came here because they were kicked out of Canada. The other side, not your side, and just like they were exiled, out of the Highlands, they have a Cayley is a dance, a community dance. We have a feu d'eau. The Cajuns were told, don't speak your language, just like Gaelic was frowned upon at times. So there's all these assimilations. I come from Scotch Irish background. My grandfather and his father ran an illicit still in West Tennessee. I figure I come by this honestly. I might as well just go out there and show people, you can be a woman of a certain age and you can pick up a damn dram and you can decide whether or not you like that. And you can drink it any way you damn well please.
And you don't have to have a husband. No. Or, but if you do, that's totally cool. Or you can have a wife, or you can have whatever.
Yes.
That's why we started the channel. Yeah. That's why we started this, because there's always gonna be that little group that thinks that whiskey is a man's drink.
Well, and it doesn't have to be pretentious. I think that's the other thing. Yep. They make it highbrow, or they make it, especially Scotch gets the highbrow kind of thing going, and it's like, no, the juice in this bottle don't give a damn who's drinking it.
No,
None to call some any.
I used to get the weirdest looks when we would go to a bar, and it was me and my husband, and I would ask for a whiskey neat, and like I've already said, I like my high proof whiskey, and it was always high proof whiskey. And I'd get the weirdest look from some guys like, you're drinking that? Yes, I'm drinking this. Who are you to tell me that I can't drink this? And that's one of the reasons why we started this channel, was to show that, women drink whiskey. Women enjoy whiskey. Women know a lot about whiskey.
Yeah.
And women's palates are generally better than men.
And their smelling is definitely
especially
tuned.
Yeah.
And Irene, I was like totally geeking out when you were talking about blending. OMG. Talk about playing with your whiskey.
Yes.
Oh my heavens. So I was able to take the Glengoyne master blending class before I went to Iowa. And I walk in, and there's like this array of cast strength Glengoyne. And I'm like, I'm so happy. Because there's just so much you can play with. Well, this past year, through our whiskey club, there's a great local store here in Louisiana called Hocus Pocus Liquor Store. They've family owned for 40-something years. And they asked me to be one of the 4 women, first time an all-women panel got to pick a private select maker's mark selection. And we should be getting that bottle like any day now. I'm so stoked, because I'm like, I know I'm not the bourbon person, but I got sultanas all in this. Sultanas, tobacco, and chocolate. This shit's good. I'm excited about that bottle.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, thanks to the Whiskey Tribe video. People don't come in. They come in their heads thinking I'm the expert already. I'm like, look, you're the whiskey expert. I'm like, no, I'm still kind of new at it. I just happen to taste a lot of stuff. But when my first store opened in 2013, I was doing whiskey. Lots of people would come in and they would test me. They're like, well, what's the difference between a bourbon and I'm like, oh, are we there again? So I will like totally like know them like with real facts, right? Okay, obviously you know what you're talking about. I go, well, you can keep going. I got any other questions?
Let me ask you a question.
Let me start.
I smell this. I think this is a smells like a 35% rye mash bill because I can smell the spice in it. I mean, and this was kind of just shit that I made up in my head, but it was actually true. My first barrel pick of what was it? It was a Four Roses single barrel pick. I didn't know much about mash bills at the time, and so other than because my very first whiskey that barrel that I did was Angel's Envy blend, so that was really fun. So this guy brought me the samples. I'm like, boy, that smells like super high rye, like 35% rye. And he's looking at me like, did you study this? I'm like, no, that's what I'm smelling, a lot of spice. And so then he never questioned me again either. So that was good.
So Irene, where can we find you aside from, I know you're on Facebook and Donald was great enough to share that. So thank you,
Facebook
Donald.
and Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're our Whiskey Mentors.
Whiskey Mentors without the E.
Without an E.
I own both accounts, but just go to Whiskey Mentors without the E. So I usually just post to Instagram because it automatically posts to my Facebook page. I've been told I should have a web page and a YouTube channel, and I insist I do not have time for that. I just don't, because for me to, post my pictures when I do have a meal, my girlfriend is going, when can we eat? I go, you can start eating, but I can't eat my food till I take a picture of it first. Because the whole thing of it is I'm trying to get people comfortable with having whiskey, and obviously wine and whatever else, with their meals. Because most people, we only drink whiskey after. I'm like, why? Because to me, certain whiskeys just call out to, a side of bacon or like a 10-ounce steak or whatever it is.
My rock oyster is great with grilled shrimp.
All whiskey is good with bacon.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
All whiskey, yes.
Okay, I usually have bacon. I usually have bacon because that's our thing on Whiskey Crusaders. Whiskey and bacon.
That's some damn good bacon too.
Damn good.
84 days till we're Austin and we get bacon.
Leanne's had that bacon before.
And Irene, we know that we've alluded to it, but you were featured on the Whiskey Tribe in the what liquor stores should be doing for whiskey people or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but y'all can look it up. You're internet famous because of it. But what is the name of your store? Because people can actually seek out the Irene picks. If you are looking for something that the cask picker maestro here, what is the name of your liquor store?
So my liquor store that was featured in the video, I'm actually in the process of selling it. We just signed a contract to sell it because I have a business partner there. But the store that everybody, if you watch to the end of the video, you should end up in Canterbury, Connecticut. It's Canterbury Liquors. But next door to Canterbury Liquors is a sign that says Whiskey Mentors. I was sponsored by Garrison, but they made me a sign that says Whiskey Mentors on the other side. And for the longest time, because this happened during COVID, people are like, what's that business? Is that yours too? I'm like, oh, you have to have a special code to go over there. Because of COVID, we couldn't do tasting in the retail space. It was all by special invite. So it's kind of like a speakeasy kind of thing. Come in through the back door and by the side and only by appointment. And that's, I took a video of it. I think it's recently because people out there posting, oh, we got a single barrel pick available at this 15 places. So I'm like, screw you. Here are my single barrel picks. Here's a video of all that I have and available only exclusively at my store, right? Because, they were trying to hop on this, oh, we got single barrel pick stuff. And I was like, yeah, no, here's where you need to come. So while in Louisiana, you guys got plenty of culture and music and all that. We got nothing in Canterbury. There's nothing but cows and fields. And the only attraction is Canterbury Liquors.
Oh, man.
There's really not a whole lot going on in the whole of Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
You just got to go see Irene.
It's really nice. It's really nice to go up there when the leaves are changing.
Yeah. Come in September. October is better for leaf peeping, especially with the climate change. I think it's kind of getting pushed out late in October. But normally my event is in February.
Damn it.
It's freezing cold. But I think doing it this year in September is going to be good because hopefully hurricane will blow through, but it'll be much warmer weather so people can hang out outside. Because how it's going to work is come in through the tasting room side and get your pour, and once you get your pour, you go out in the back and you hang out with the next 150 people out there, and then when you're done, you come through the store and you do this little loop around. So I imagine it's going to happen. It's going to be pretty crazy.
Wow.
Basically under 2,000 square foot space to house 150 people, with about probably by then, I think probably at least 25 or 26 barrels of whiskey in my tasting room.
Oh
Wow.
goodness, that is just insane.
That's
I
It's
crazy.
pretty
don't know.
crazy. Part of it was a kind of a knee-jerk reaction, defiance of my business partner in my other store, because every time I buy more than 3 barrels of whiskey a year, he'd look at me like I had three, like 5 heads or whatever. So since I opened my new store, there was nobody to tell me I couldn't do it. I look in the bank account, I go, I think we got money, let's buy more whiskey. And then it would just like my first 14 barrels have already been sold out. Since we opened, it hasn't been 2 years yet. So I think we're on the right track so far, and people seem to like our barrel picks. So, and it's funny because I keep saying when the Canadian border opens, I'm gonna have to buy a Canadian app, because last September I got sick and tired of people in Connecticut going, we have to drive 1 hour and 20 to see you. I'm like, yeah, but you don't get, you don't get the experience that you get when you come to see me, right? You get to taste before you buy. Pretty much every bottle I have, I don't care whatever bottle I have. If I have more than 3 of them, I'm gonna open it. And so, where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought. But anyway, so I wrap up of the U.S. and within 20 minutes, first spin came from Tennessee. So people up and down the East Coast have been coming to see me. I've got 3 people from Hawaii, so a bunch of people from the West Coast. Not too many in the middle yet, but I just got my first Ohio person about 3-4 weeks ago. So
you need to come to Canada, because we have some really great Canadian single malt that is happening up here, and they are starting to sell off some of their casks for store picks. So
that could happen.
Yeah, you come up here, I'll show you. Well, I mean, I can show you around locally, but
I gotta wait for the borders to open up.
I can try and introduce you to some folks. So because but anyways.
So anyway, speaking of regional picks, I actually was one of the main reasons I was out in Colorado last week, and I can't talk about who it is yet, but they're trying to launch in Connecticut. So I was on my own dime. I went out there for a variety of reasons, but the main one was to help them launch their single barrels in Connecticut. So there are 2 out of the 20 barrels that go. We're allocating 2 to Connecticut. So can you come and taste them and tell us, what you think? Just be totally honest. If it sucks, tell us it sucks. So I went out there and I tasted barrel 4 before I said, okay, barrel 4 is like the whole, it's a rye. The barrel 4 is kind of a whole package. Then I kept tasting and I go, barrel 7. So because I was taking 20 of them, all I cast strength, was very difficult to write really detailed notes. So in my head, it was like, okay, what am I tasting? Whether it's a spice, it's a habanero spice, or it's on the left side of my palate, right side of my, whatever it is. So it just went down and did these notes. Got to barrel 7, and I said, wow, barrel 7 is better than the package. So meaning that I would have to prefer it over number 4. So we got to about 13, and 13, all I wrote on there was FS, fucking spectacular. So then I go, well, you guys should be pleased to know none of your whiskey sucks,
That sounds like a great name for a bottle. It's just going to be like an F with asterisks after it, just fucking spectacular. And that is going to be the name of Irene's first Colorado pick.
Yeah, actually, it's not my first. It's my third.
Okay,
so
third.
I'm not picking it for me. I'm actually picking it for the state of Connecticut, right? So we picked. I picked all of them, and they're like, "Can we hire you?" I'm like, "No, you can afford me." Because I got a day job, right? It's really fun because we'll play in the whiskey. I go, no, I whole full of whiskey and a whole house full of whiskey. I don't think we paid whiskey. But what was fun was
after Leanne's story, I want to get paid in whiskey.
I don't want to get paid in whiskey. I just want to
I
get
don't
paid.
mind getting paid in whiskey as long as I can bottle it.
And sell it.
But the two of the barrels, I told them I thought they needed blending. So they had like different toast, char levels and all different things. And, they were just like watching me do my thing. I said, don't tell me anything about it because I'd rather pick out the notes that I could pick out. And so when we ended the day, I said, okay, I'm going to take 4 samples home with me. Excuse me. And then I'll let you know next week which 2 I'm going to pick for the state. And so they go, you can buy it for yourself. I go, I know. I said, but to help you launch your brand, I would prefer to pick the best 2 barrels you have and let that be what goes out to the general public so that all the other stores can get the same access, right? Because then they can taste how good your stuff is. So if I keep it for myself, that's good, but people already know I have good whiskey. So if I want to really promote your brand, I'd rather that, we share it among the state. So they go, but you get more cases of it if you want. I'm like, that's fine. That's really fun stuff. So that was a really kind of fun, experience to go out there and have these guys who have been making whiskey for a few years now go, tell us what you think about whiskey, So that was pretty neat. But anyway, I hopefully can reveal it soon because they sent me. So anyway, talking about drinking in plastic glasses and other things, I never do anything in plastic glasses because especially on the high proof end, because it really does eat into the plastic. I don't care how little time it spends in it. So when you buy those little sample bottles, get the ones with the plastic tops. I mean, with the plastic tops versus the paper tops. So what happened with sample number 13 was, they gave me one of their bottles, and the top part of the paper peeled out, and the glue and all the other crap got mixed into the whiskey. And then it just became fucking shit. It was awful. I figured out like, this is not what I tasted. So can you guys send me a sample? So hopefully they'll get samples next week. And then once we decide on the 2 barrels, then I'll announce, who they are and all that. They're going to come out in October to launch their brand. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. All right. So everybody in the chat, you got to know, you plan your trip to Connecticut for October.
September.
And
September.
Well, September or October, because you said October for the Colorado release.
No, so we're going to announce it. Yeah, so the people will be there in October. But September is if you want to taste whiskey, come, special whiskey, come in September.
Go plan your trip to Connecticut in September. And in the meantime, stay tuned on Whiskey Mentors for both Facebook and Instagram. And Irene is great about letting you know what she's got because she's got awesome stuff. So,
thanks,
Sarah. What about you? Because you are hosting us here. You are the Whiskey and Lipstick account, but you are also.
I'm also over on
your own thing. So.
I'm all over the place. No, I am also over on Whiskey Crusader. We go live on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Central. We also have 2 whiskey-related reviews a week on Tuesday and Thursday, and then we do a liqueur series on Saturday, and that's always interesting. We never know what we're going to get, and Matt always likes making us drink interesting things for the liqueur series. But
shit.
You can find me. What?
Weird shit. And he likes to pick things by the prettiness of the bottle when it comes to liqueur. So if you want to. Yeah.
He's a marketer's dream then.
He is. Oh my God, this bottle's so awesome. Look how pretty it is. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it's fun though. We always have fun. But yeah, I'm over on Whiskey Crusaders on YouTube and on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also over in Discord. We have a subreddit. Been on Reddit too much. We have a sub Discord in the Whizcord. It's a mouthful. So you can always catch the 3 of us there. It's Matt, Will, and me. And that's what we have going on.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
And then I am Canadian Whiskey Smith. I hang out here once a month because we are doing Whiskey and Lipstick on the last Sunday of every month. There may
Except
be
October.
except October. I was going to say there are some exceptions because October 31st, we're like, well, I mean, we could do Halloween, and that could be spooktacular, but it could also be really, really tough for people to chime in. So, yeah, Steve A put up the Discord thing. So click that if you want to join. But yeah, so we are October. We'll let you know when we're here. But basically, last Sunday of the month, just plan it, put it on the calendar, subscribe, like, blah blah blah, hit the bell. So you can find me here, and then also Canadian Whiskey Smith over on Instagram. That's where I put all my content, and it flows through to Facebook as well. So you can always like me there. But yeah.
Question: how difficult is this to get where you are?
The 35.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it's not super accessible, but it's got pretty good distribution throughout Canada. Yeah.
Good.
I don't know if it has distribution very far outside of Canada, but I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a bottle.
Yeah, I got one. I got one in Toronto, so I need to get a second bottle. I've been really nursing it, not drinking much of it. But
Yeah,
whenever I do drink this, I think of Utah, just because it's from Canada.
Yes, you know what? There are some really interesting things coming out of JP Weiser's. I'm a big fan of Dr. Dawn, and as we discussed last month, actually, their master blender, their master distiller is a lady. So I've been following her now too. I'm like, oh, she's pretty cool too. So yeah. And I think it was Donald Rance was asking about some Weiser stuff earlier as well. We were chatting a little bit about Red Letter and the Wheatland Gold. And, you know, in terms of the big distillers, like if there's sort of the big three in Canada, it's Canadian Club, Crown Royal, and JP Weiser's. Those are our big three. And then you've got, you know, ADL with Alberta Premium and a bunch of other stuff, Whistle Pig. Ish. But you know, like JP Weiser's is sort of like the right up there in that, if I think about our big three, and they are doing creative stuff. They are the ones that are the closest to the craft market, and they are picking up what's happening, and they aren't afraid to do experimental things. And you know, when it comes to a big brand, I'm all for that. So I'm a big.
That's cool.
My internet's had just about enough tonight, I think.
All right. Well, hours. So Donald thinks it's more from that. What do you think? Orange Picot in that 35-year Weiser's.
Yeah, a little bit on the finish.
A little bit on the finish.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So, as we are coming up on 2 hours, so I think we might be ready to go behind the scenes again. But I want to thank everybody for coming out. And if Sarah's gonna if her internet is dying, we want to make sure that we say a proper farewell. So.
Well, thanks very much for the invite. It's been fun tonight to get to see you all and get to see Sarah again after meeting you and Irene. After that video, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Irene. So, but no, this has been delightful, and I'm looking forward to watching y'all on future Sunday nights.
Yay!
All right. Nice meeting everyone.
Thank you both. Thank you both for coming on and hanging out with us tonight and all the wonderful conversation. And everybody who tuned in tonight, appreciate it as well. Yeah. And we will see you next month. We will see you next month as with Whiskey and Lipstick. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Yeah. Sláinte, y'all.
Oh, I should. Yeah, y'all. I love the y'all. You got to get the y'alls in.
You got to do the sláinte, y'all.
Sláinte, y'all. I need that t-shirt. I so need that t-shirt.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.